I found out why her best friend always hated me, and it broke everything. When I was 29, dating Emily for almost 4 years, I started noticing something that made me uncomfortable. Her best friend Mark was always texting her, all day long, no matter the time. At first, I thought maybe he was just being an overly caring friend, but soon, those messages began to feel different, more calculated. Mark wasn't just checking in. He was making subtle digs about me, planting little doubts about whether I was really good enough for Emily. My name is Jake. I'm 29 years old, and Emily is 27. We've had a great relationship overall. We get along well, communicate openly, and I genuinely believe we have a future together. But Mark, her best friend since college, has been this constant source of tension that I couldn't ignore anymore. Mark is everywhere in Emily's life. He remembers the tiniest details. A job interview Emily mentioned once months ago, a dentist appointment, or even a casual comment about a TV show she likes. He texts her morning, noon, and night. Sometimes it feels like he's keeping a calendar of her life, tracking every event, every mood swing, every plan she makes. And often he knows about things before I even do. At first, I tried to dismiss it, telling myself he's just an unusually attentive friend. But then the subtle insults began creeping in. One night during a casual dinner with friends, I joked about burning a simple meal I'd cooked. Mark immediately said, "Good thing Emily's a better cook than you." Everyone laughed, but to me it felt like a low blow, and it stung. Over time, there were so many moments like that. If I forgot a small preference or detail about Emily, Mark was the first to remind me, never with kindness, but with this smug undertone, like he was silently saying, "I know her better than you do." It felt like I was being constantly judged and compared to a friend who was silently competing for her attention. What really got under my skin was how Mark seemed to swoop in whenever Emily and I had any disagreement. No matter how minor, he would text her immediately afterward, offering a sympathetic ear and subtle reminders that she deserved better. I remember one time, after a small fight about me working late, Mark sent her a meme about being treated like a queen and checked in with a message, "You okay? I'm here if you need to talk." On its own, it sounded harmless, but given everything else, it felt like he was waiting for an opening to step in as the perfect friend. I told Emily I thought Mark was in love with her, but she laughed it off, calling me paranoid and jealous. She said he was just a loyal friend, and I was reading too much into it. That hurt, but I tried to trust her. Mark and Emily have been inseparable since their university days, and Emily insists their friendship is purely platonic. But to me, Mark's behavior crossed normal friend boundaries long ago. Whenever Emily and I argued, even slightly, Mark was always ready to swoop in, playing the role of the supportive white knight. What made it worse was Mark's dating history seemed suspiciously tied to Emily's relationship status. Before Emily and I got together, Mark was in relationships that ended mysteriously whenever Emily was single. Once Emily started dating me, Mark quickly found a girlfriend, only to break up within less than a year. Since then, he's been single, almost like he's intentionally keeping himself available, always pouring his energy into being Emily's go-to guy. It felt like a silent competition I never signed up for, and I was losing. It wasn't just jealousy. It was this gut feeling that Mark was actively trying to undermine our relationship, hoping for me to fail so he could take my place. The breaking point came after a minor disagreement about weekend plans. I had to reschedule our date because of a last-minute work request. Emily was disappointed since she'd cleared the whole day for us. We eventually made up and agreed to have a date night later. But that same night, out of nowhere, Mark texted me directly, which was strange because we barely spoke otherwise. His message said, "Hey, I heard you bailed on plans with Emily for work. Everything cool between you two? You know she deserves to be prioritized, right?" That text pissed me off. It felt like a huge intrusion, like he was positioning himself as the guardian of Emily's happiness. I replied shortly, "We're fine. This isn't your business, but thanks for your concern." Inside, I was fuming, but I didn't want to escalate things with a long argument over text. After that, I had to sit Emily down for a serious talk. I explained calmly and clearly that from my perspective, Mark wasn't just a normal friend. His behavior showed he was in love with her, or at least wanted to be with her. I laid out the examples, the constant one-upmanship, the way he always knew her better, and that text that crossed a line. Emily didn't take it well. She got defensive, accusing me of being jealous and paranoid. She insisted Mark was just a caring friend and that I was imagining things. I tried to explain how his actions were inappropriate, but she shut down the conversation, saying I was attacking her best friend. It was painful to hear, especially because I wasn't trying to start a fight. Just be honest. The conversation left a coldness between us, and I felt like the bad guy for even bringing it up. Since that talk, things have been tense. Emily has been a bit distant, and I've been walking on eggshells, unsure whether to bring it up again. Part of me is frustrated that she refuses to see what seems obvious, and part of me doubts myself, wondering if maybe I really am overreacting. We tried to move on, went on a nice dinner date the next weekend, and acted like everything was normal. But the underlying tension hasn't gone away. Mark still texts Emily all day long, still makes those subtle digs, and still plays the supportive friend whenever Emily and I have a disagreement. I love Emily and I want to trust her judgment, but I also need her to acknowledge what I see. Am I wrong for confronting her? For calling out a friend who clearly crossed the line? I don't want to lose her, but I can't ignore how Mark's presence affects our relationship. This experience has taught me how tricky it is when someone else's feelings get tangled up in your love life. Boundaries get blurred, insecurities rise, and trust gets tested. I hope by sharing this, others might recognize the signs early and protect their relationships before things get complicated.